This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, well, I guess we'll get started. At least we'll call to order the Board of Commissioners for the Lake Stevens Sewer District. It is going to be Thursday, April 27th, 2021. This is a utility meeting that we meet with our partners from the City of Lake Stevens and discuss matters that are before us and come up with solutions to solve issues. So with that being said, I know Commissioner Koshi, Commissioner Stevenson are present, along with myself, Commissioner Ranson, and we'll turn over to the City of Lake Stevens, which I think all there. I see a majority of the members on their committee logged in. So I know that Mayor Gately is on the phone at the moment, but I see Council Member Peter Shagan. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I think the only one we're missing is Marcus.
Correct. I don't see him labeled on any of the little blocks that we usually occupy on here, and I haven't opened up the chat thing to see if I've missed somebody on the chat room. So going down that list real quick. Now, and looks to be consistent with what I'm seeing on the screen. So yeah, I think we're just missing Council Member Tangent. And we can get started here shortly. I know that Mayor Gately, once he finishes, we'll go from there.
Hey, sorry about that, guys. I was getting Marcus on the right link.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, we were just talking. We didn't see him in there, but I know that we do have the City Administrator Gene, the General Manager Mariah, the Assistant General Manager Jonathan, and a few other folks coming in. So I think we'll give it a moment to get this so Council Member Tangent can get logged in. I know that everybody hopefully has seen the agenda. It came out this week, and I know there's a little flurry of paperwork back and forth on some of the old minutes, just corrections in that. So good opportunity, I guess, for everybody to take a look at that if they got any questions. Okay, we are joined by all members of the Utility Committee. So we have the council members and the mayor from the City of Lake Stevens. We got the Board of Commissioners from the Lake Stevens Sewer District. Again, this is the Utility Committee meeting for Tuesday, I'm sorry, April 27th, 2021. It is now 4:03 p.m. So in front of us this afternoon is we've got the agenda. Hopefully everybody did get a copy of that earlier. I know it had been sent out during the week and there had been some stuff going back and forth in regards to just some of the minutes. So with that being said, we've pretty much gone through the roll call and the call to order, but we can start with the action items. Number 3, which was the approval of the meeting minutes that date back to December 17th, 2020, and then also January 26th, 2021, which was the first quarter meeting. So I'll open it up to all the members. If there's questions, comments, concerns, or any actions on those meeting minutes.
I think we got the corrected ones earlier today, right? Was that when they came across?
Yes, there was a set. I think a set went to the city. There were some corrections and they just came back this afternoon. Okay. That we got a copy.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that. I think we got a red line copy after, yeah, a little back and forth and got a red line copy. I went back through that. I guess the only question I have is I was just kind of curious how we came up with the red lines that are there. Did someone punish themselves and go through the audio recording and tune it up, or is it more this is how I recall it and it wasn't captured? Or I was just kind of curious of the genesis of the changes.
Yeah, I think from the city side, we didn't see the original minutes as being accurate as to how it portrayed the meeting. And I have continued concerns with those meetings, those minutes as they are in that Word document as well. I'd like to hold off on approving those. There's grammatical issues with that. There's some weird highlighted words or bolded, not bold, but capitalized words. I'm not sure why we're capitalizing words in there. There's still issues in that minutes. I'd like to hold off on voting for that.
Well, given that they're December minutes, there certainly doesn't seem to be an emergency on getting them approved. I don't have an issue holding off. I guess I would ask
Do we
though,
have
who's the action. I would suggest that if there's concerns on those, let's have somebody take the action then to go through and take another cut at them and turn red lines on and make sure that what's passed after those corrections have been made indeed have the edit mark so they're easily understood and there's not a stare and compare between two different versions. So who has that? Who would you propose have that action, Amir?
Do we have a verbal of the meeting of how everything went down? I mean, I think that'll clarify everything right there if we just have a verbal of how down.
Yeah, I think you mean a recording, Marcus?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you guys got to post it on your website. I mean, at least one of them I know that's on there. The longest one where I went on my whole manifesto. That whole thing's posted out there. So, yeah, so it's available.
I think, Kevin, if Kelly from our side and whomever you'd like to assign to it from your side can put their heads together and get that whittled down, figured out.
Okay, I think we've taken a couple cuts at it. I just say, on your side, if there's concerns about it and the concerns are coming from the city, I'd say assign someone from staff. I would suggest assign someone from staff, make all the corrections that you feel are necessary to where you feel that they're a 100% tight and right set of minutes with edit marks on, and then send them across, and we'll take a quick look and make sure we're comfortable, and away we go. And I think it's probably as simple as that. I don't know that I just like to minimize the back and forth. As there concerns the city side, let's get them tuned up to your satisfaction and then go forward.
I'm good with that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. So we can just put those on. We'll just go ahead and hold off on approving the meetings for December 17th, 2020 and January 26, 2021. We'll hold those until the next set of meetings that we have, which will be into the next quarter. So let's move on down to the public forum aspect of this. It is open to anybody that might be here. If there's anything that anybody wants to share, it's not action items. Anybody wants to address anything, this is a good opportunity. And if it's something that we have to bring back, we'll definitely do that. So it's open to the board.
It's open to the board or the public?
Well, the public, and it'll give an opportunity, but I don't see anybody from the public other than it seems to just be us. So anybody who wants to comment at this point.
Well, let me ask a question, I guess. And since we're not approving the minutes for January 26th either, there was a note in the January 26th minutes that Jonathan was going to present, as well as Mariah, to the City Council on February 4th, the comprehensive plan, which talked about the industrial areas of the comp plan, I believe is how I'm reading that. And we didn't have a meeting on February 4th. We had a council meeting on February 9th. So I'm I don't recall that happening. Has that happened? Maybe I wasn't in attendance. Or is that yet to be happen?
I believe that was impression during city council retreat or workshop that the district would be available to present to council during their workshop any comments and concerns about the Hartford industrial area.
Yeah, and we didn't have a workshop or a council meeting on February 4th.
Well, I guess, Gary, it's as simple as, was there an agenda item on your folks' agenda that had the district coming on to provide any information. If there wasn't, then it probably didn't happen. If that's something that the city would like to have happen, then I'd suggest adding it to an agenda item, making the district aware, and we'll come participate.
Well, and I agree with that, Kevin. I'm just asking the question, did Jonathan and Mariah actually take that activity? Did that happen? I'm not aware that it did. So I'm just asking the question.
Can you tell me where you are in the minutes?
Page 5 on the January 26th meetings, down at the bottom section, number 6, B, item III, Hartford Industrial Area, the second sentence. I'm assuming this didn't happen since it's kind of here, so.
Another thing that we should go back and listen to the video on, and we can clarify the notes.
Well, I'm not so concerned about the notes. I'm wanting to make sure that that actually took place, and maybe you subsequently had a meeting with staff or something.
Sorry. On February 4th, Jean and myself, and I believe it was Russ, had a meeting, and we had a virtual meeting on February 4th at 10 a.m.
Okay. So it wasn't presented to the city council, it was presented to the staff. Okay.
Yeah.
So it did happen. That's good to hear. So, okay. Good stuff. Thank you.
Perfect. No
Glad it took place.
Okay, so if there is no other public information or sharing that we have at this time in the public forum, because nobody has stepped forward and it's just us all chatting on that, we can move on down to item 5 on the agenda, which is information sharing. The first thing we have listed in there is rates and charges. 7.6, state revolving fund loan, L as in Lincoln, 08. 00014, payment using rate stabilization fund. And I think Commissioner Koshi had something he wanted to talk on that.
Yeah, just an update to the board. As we spoke, I don't know, 3 or 4 meetings in a row about, we did end up going forward and paying off SRF loan number 1100012, and that was approximately $3.4 million. And again, these are out of the monies that were collected to be used for the plant and that we had held in reserve for a number of years, and we're putting them back to where we had stated to the public they were ultimately going to go. So that's done and complete. We have a remaining approximately 1.2 million remaining of stabilization monies that were not used to pay off that loan completely. And with the pay down in debt, we've also freed up some additional reserve funds. So again, that's where the 1.2 million comes from. And we're going to, our intention, or what we're going to talk about at a future board meeting, but the stated intention is to use those monies to go against SRF loan number 08000014, and that won't completely wipe it out, but it'll pay it down. So I guess this is more of a sharing of information and intent. It's consistent with what we've shared before, but certainly open to any questions anybody might have.
I think that's great that you're sharing, but this needs to go in front of the committee. We need to vote on it. I don't think it's something that the sewer district just does. Like the last fund, we didn't talk about it or have a unanimous vote one way or the other on it. So I hope that you include the city once again on this before making a move, and it comes in from the utility subcommittee on what we do.
Okay, are you making a recommendation or a motion, Marcus? Because I'm not, but you're certainly empowered.
I hope that we put this in front of the committee like it's supposed to be.
Are you making a motion?
I'm just saying, I hope that we put it all in front of the committee. That I'm not making.
Well, it is in front of the committee right now. We are the utility meeting. I mean, this is representatives from the city of Lake Stevens and the Board of Commissioners. That's why it is on here. So that is.
It's
what
not a
it's-
recommendation or a vote that needs to happen. It's supposed to go in front of the committee. It's not supposed to be a recommendation or a vote or anything. It's supposed to go in front of the committee, and we're supposed to talk about it, talk about why and how it's all supposed to go. It's not something that comes down to a vote immediately. We need to discuss it. We don't know all the reasons behind it right now. Even this is something you just brought up, Kevin. This is supposed to be something that we share in the information, have all the reasons why, and do that, and then we deliberate, and then we make a decision.
You were at our December 17th meeting, I believe, and also the January 26th meeting where we discussed this direction we were taking. And there was an opportunity at both those meetings to be able to make a recommendation or make a motion if you so chose. I don't believe the committee members chose to take that step. Here's another opportunity if you feel that you'd like to make a recommendation. But our interpretation of the contract is certainly that we manage the district and frankly deliver on the commitments that have been made to ratepayers around those monies. And to make a different path around those monies would be a breach of trust. So fiduciary responsibility as a commissioner, those monies need to pay down the debt. But if you want to make a recommendation differently or a motion to be considered by the board that it's in front of, you certainly are empowered to do so.
I'm under the impression that we need more information on this before decision comes forward. I want to know the reasons behind it, what the reason why behind it, doing that now versus having funds to do things in the future, and coming up with a different level of expense for the ratepayers moving forward when other projects got to come forward versus want to do something now. That's all I'm saying is I want more information surrounding it.
Okay, when I brought it up in December, there was a concern that you wanted more information. And actually, I had provided a written document around that. I believe you received a copy of it along with the rest of the folks at the city. So that outlined it pretty clearly, and this is a continuation of that. So what additional information beyond what was shared, which was pretty, I wrote it, but I think it was very clear on what the intent was and what the purpose was.
I think we're in the middle of litigation right now. It doesn't make sense to make a decision one way or the other until we have got the information from the courts on which way we're moving with this.
So let me go ahead and clarify things. I'll go ahead and make a motion. I'll go ahead and make a motion that any loans to be paid off by the sewer district must first be voted upon and approved upon by the Sewer Utility Committee.
I second the motion.
So if there's going to be discussion on that, that's going to actually be a change that goes all the way back into the other parts of the contract. That's not what is in front of us this morning and far as our afternoon, I should say, in regards to the SRF loan that we have there. If you're wanting to change the contract in the way we're going to prove it, you have to go and open that up. Not make a motion. The motion today is in regards to the state revolving fund loan that we have in front of us.
No, my motion is what it is. It stands.
Okay, well, if you want to make a motion and council member Tangent wants to second that, it is on the floor. We can call for a vote to see if it's going to move anywhere. It would take all 6 of the individuals in this thing to actually amend what you are trying to make to the contract. So we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Does it take all 6 or does it take 4?
It would take all of us being present, I guess, and then a majority to approve that. But I don't
That would
see.
be 4. Is that correct? Not all 6.
I would have to double check. We'll take a look if it is a majority or if it's unanimous to change anything within the contract. I don't know if either the general manager or the assistant manager has a copy of that up at the moment.
I don't see this as a contract change. It's merely doing what the contract says.
That's what I'm after too. I don't understand why there's a motion. This is supposed to come in front of the board via the utility agreement that we have.
Okay. Well, it's been in front of the board for the last couple meetings as far as the utility committee, and we seem to not get anywhere on that. And then there's a different interpretation. But
Our
I don't
interpretation,
know.
wait, our interpretation has always been the same. There's not a different interpretation. Our interpretation has always been the same. Make no mistake about that.
Okay, let's get on with the vote then.
Yeah. So we can go ahead and call the vote. So there is a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Nay.
Yay.
Motion has failed. Okay, so now that we have done talking about that, and there doesn't seem to be any more on that. Pardon me?
Dan, if I may,
Yes,
if I may.
yes.
So I'd like
please.
to have it noted in the minutes that during the discussion, there was no discussion as to why this would not pass, but yet the 3 sewer board members voted nay. We could put that in the minutes, please.
Well, there was discussion, Mayor, so I can
It doesn't
restate
mean it
that for you.
doesn't
There was a
pass.
document that was
It doesn't
provided back in December that articulated the history and the reason for applying these monies, which were promised to the ratepayers that were going to go to capital against that plan. So that was articulated there. That's what we did with the 3.4 previously. That's what we're doing with the 1.2 previously. There's no confusion around how these monies are going to be used, how they were communicated, and the fact that we've done them before. So
It doesn't mean that it doesn't pass because there's an agreement. It means that we go to interpleader action. Is what it means. It doesn't mean that it does or doesn't pass, Dan. It means that we go to arbitration about this. That's what it means. That's what the document says.
actually,
When there's a difference between that, we take it to an arbitrator to discuss it. That's what it
I'm
says.
not sure if that is it exactly.
Well, who knows?
We'll agree to disagree on that, council member. It has been noted from what both Mayor Gailey and Commissioner Kochi have said in regards to the context of making note that the Board of Commissioners for the Lake Stevens Sewer District were not in agreement.
Well, then why did you say that it
Dan,
failed?
can I,
Why did you say it
Could I-
failed when it's just an agreement? It doesn't mean that it failed. You said it failed.
Well, it did not pass. You either have a majority to pass it or you don't have a majority to pass it. And at this point, it did not pass. It is not made the vote. There's not a majority. I think you argued that point, council member, when you said that it would take 4 to make it pass. There is a 3 to 3. It did not pass. It does not go any further.
That's what it means. It means it goes to arbitration.
Well, that can be your interpretation of it there, council member, okay? We appreciate your thoughts on that. We're going to now move on to section B under information sharing, which is personnel under 7.7. What this is we have 2 things in front of us that we wanted to notify you folks of in the utility committee. Is 1, there is a PERC certification of a new bargaining unit within the Lake Stevens Sewer District. And 2, we are going to discuss in regards to the interim general manager, as we had brought forth when we appointed our interim general manager, and what we planned on doing at the end of the 6 months, which is coming up sooner than later, which means in May. So with that, we'll go ahead and open it up on the first one. If there's some comments, questions, or concern under the first item, which is the PERC certification of the new bargaining unit.
is there some sort of staff presentation to tell us what's this all about?
The general manager can explain what we have going in front of us.
Okay, thank you.
Just notifying you that the remaining staff that was non-represented has filed for representation, and PERC has certified their bargaining unit. So we will begin bargaining with that group.
So all the employees of the sewer district are now represented? Is that my understanding?
With the exception of management, Jonathan and I.
Okay, and the management includes yourself, Jonathan, the plant manager, And who else?
We don't have a plant manager. We have a supervisor that's currently under the already existing bargaining unit. The only managers at the district are general manager and assistant general manager.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions on that?
Is that with AFSCME or who's it with, Mariah?
It's with AFSCME as well. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on down to interim general manager. I open that up to the floor. I know that Commissioner Koshi has a couple comments. I'll go ahead and let him start by opening that up.
Yeah, so these two are actually kind of related. We had spoke about employee assurance. You know, the district's employees, as I've written in the document back in December and shared with you all, you know, are concerned about the city's actions to accelerate universally or unilaterally rather accelerate the merger. And that has caused some concern. And so the level of assurance that we can provide them, whether it's through a bargaining unit or otherwise, I think would be wise to be able to keep our award-winning staff in place. That philosophy extends also to our unrepresented two staff members in terms of Mariah and Jonathan. And so there's two parts here in full transparency. The first part is to move forward with Mariah, or discuss amongst the commissioners to move forward with Mariah and drop the interim title. We talked about that, doing that at 6 months. We're upon that time period, and so as we outlined previously, it shouldn't be any new news there, but maybe a reminder. The second piece of that is and I haven't discussed this with my fellow commissioners, but one of the things that I'm going to suggest as part of removing that title is to also redo the employment contracts for both Jonathan and Mariah to include a 12-month severance if they are let go, not for cause. So again, as long as intentions are pure in terms of keeping staff in place and the leadership structure that's won the awards for the district in place, if the city is successful in accelerating the merger, it won't cost ratepayers or taxpayers any incremental monies, but it will provide our leadership team assurance that we're behind them. So that's something I would propose. I wanted to make sure that, you know, you've heard it at the same time as my fellow commissioners have heard it, and take any comments or recommendations or motions you might have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments by any of the other members of the Utility Committee?
So getting back to our procedure a little bit, Kevin, are you putting that item number 2, the redo contracts for Jonathan and Mariah, I guess into some sort of recommendation, vote, whatever I believe you mentioned you hadn't discussed it with your other 2 commissioners. So what are you, I guess, just floating this idea? You're actually proposing this formally, or what? Where does it stand?
I'm informing.
Okay, so does that mean that I'm assuming if you're informing us then, and we don't have another utility committee meeting for another 3 months, that you folks are going to take action in the meantime? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think that's a fair possibility. So, you know, now would be the time if there was you know, concern about that approach. This would be the time for anybody to make a motion or a recommendation counter to that. But I don't intend to make a motion or a recommendation, a formal recommendation to this board on that, as I believe that the responsibility is retained with the commission. But again, we differ. We might differ on that opinion, but that's the stance that you know I'm taking for it. But I feel that it's incumbent of us to at least to certainly share the information, share where it's going, being able to provide and get dialogue and any opinions that might be there.
Okay, I appreciate that. So yeah, I guess as you stated, we obviously disagree on the implementation of that. I guess I would, when you say redo contracts, I would be curious to know what that entails. Is it just the 12-month provision, or is it increase in salary? Is it increase in benefits? What else is entailed in that discussion, rather
Yeah.
than just looking to change from interim to permanent and then also redoing the contracts?
Yeah, that's a fair question. So currently the severance is 6 months for both Jonathan and Mariah. So that would be the difference between those two. As far as the salary piece go, we would do a review of Mariah's salary at that time relative to like size districts and so forth. And if it was appropriate to make adjustments there, I wouldn't anticipate making adjustments downward, but to make adjustments there relative to where she is in her peer group and also her tenure, because she's new to the role. That would be part of it as well. I don't anticipate significant changes in salary in that case, but we would do a review, or I would propose that we do a review and take that information.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification, because obviously from the city standpoint, if for some reason the two entities join, obviously we would have concerns about some sort of tremendous package, I guess, that was put in place for folks of importance, which I hope you can understand that. So,
absolutely.
I guess I would ask that from an administrative standpoint, that Jean be part of that review, just so that the city does have some assurances that there isn't a tremendously overcompensated package being awarded. I don't think us as representatives of the city and the need to get into the minutia of that, but from an administrative standpoint, I think it would be appropriate to have Jean involved, or at least aware of those discussions.
I don't have a problem with that from an awareness standpoint, and just make sure that I think that's I'm okay with that. I don't know how my other commissioners feel, but I wouldn't have a problem once we have that together to sit down with Gene and kind of walk him through it and see if there's any grave concerns. I don't anticipate there being any, but I would be okay with that.
Yeah, I don't anticipate there being any crazy things going on here, but at the same time, we're talking about transparency. We are obviously doubtful of each other's comments, I guess is a way to describe things. And I just, again, for assurances, I think that'd be appropriate.
Well, Councilman Peter's taken as the board president for the sewer district this year, and one that would be tasked with working with legal on the issues of compensation before it's brought to the board. I have no issue working. I mean, obviously, there's going to be times that we're going to be looking at it, and obviously what we'd like to do, and I guess this is a great time to look, is I'd love to get a copy of the contract for the city administrator to make sure we're all within the same ideal framework. I mean, generally, obviously, operating a city and operating a sewer district are going to be a little bit different, but there are going to be some standardizations that'll come in regards to some of the compensation. So I guess if we could get a copy, or I could get a copy sent over of the contract for the city administrator, and then probably the public works director or something, because that could be, we could use that. I could look at that in alignment with like our general manager and assistant general manager, but definitely we can work something there. So if that could be forwarded to me, I'd appreciate it. I don't know if you want me just to drop in a formal request to do that, but we can definitely, try to keep each side so we're not overcompensating in the eyes of the others. in regards to this matter. But I think that, we're going to use comparables, like you guys would use comparables that are just going to match what we're looking at. So it'll bring some peace of mind, I guess, to everybody. If
Yeah,
that,
exactly. We can send over the council members' compensation so we can compare that with the commissioner's compensation as well. So
okay, no, that would. I mean, I have no issue with it. I mean, I think that's open. So we'll get that. We'll look forward to that, and we'll move from there. So I don't know if this is going to be the form, or do you want me just to drop something, Mayor, to the city clerk?
Yeah, go and drop something formal. Hey, Kevin, a question for you is, why 12 months? Is that, I'm not versed on what the industry standard would be. Why 12?
I think it's, in my eyes, it's the maximum of what could be reasonable. It provides the maximum of insurance. That my understanding is that that number of months has been done before in other government municipality type entities. So it passed muster on the legalese and so forth. You go much beyond 12. I think, it isn't as it is consistent with past dealings in other entities.
Do you think 12 is acceptable to ratepayers?
That would be my question. On what?
Yeah,
when you talk about the ratepayers and how much they're paying to have a 12-year golden contract,
12 months.
See how that applies.
12 months.
Okay, I think we're kind of getting off topic here. Well, one subject was asked about it. The Board of Commissioners have not even had a discussion in regards to this. So I think that bringing things up that we have not even had a full board
Kevin's
discussion.
proposing 12 months. Kevin proposed 12 months.
He didn't. We will take a look at what is going to be reasonable for the organization where we're at there, council member. I understand that you might have a difference of opinion, and that's
So
great
you're going to bring this back to what? You're going to bring this back to the utility committee in 3 months?
If we have made a decision, I think as we had already had a conversation, because you were part of it, or at least listening in, that we would include, to a degree, the city administrator, so your city administrator would have kind of an understanding where we're going. That can be shared at that time.
To the utility commission meeting.
Okay, we'll bring it back. The decision may have already been made by that time. Again, council member, it is an operational decision that the organization, meaning the sewer district commissioners, have authority to make. We're bringing these things forward
for the utility commission meeting to make. That's a key employee. That is part of the contract for us.
Again, I think that you're misunderstanding the role of
I think you're misunderstanding the role.
Okay. Well, agree to disagree. Yes, Mayor Gailey.
If I could have the floor back, I did have a question that was being discussed without interruption, please. So this is our only opportunity to put input into this idea of a 12-month thing, and that's why I had the question. If this decision gets made within the next 3 months, we don't have any input. That's why we're discussing it, Dan. And that's why I asked, is that the standard? And then that's a concern for me. I think if a ratepayer knew that a general manager was let go and given 12 months, I think that, our average citizen wouldn't get a month. So I think it's a concern.
So you've asked the question to me, I'll give you the answer. Yes, I think it passes muster from the standpoint that if it's by cause, it's not paid. If the intentions are to keep the leadership team that has led the district to award-winning results in place, it's not paid. So, and the benefit to the ratepayer is I get to keep two, or have a better chance of keeping two of our leaders that are delivering the results that we need as an entity in place, a better chance. With all the chaos that's swirling around, I wouldn't think this would be necessary if it wasn't for the overt actions of the city to try to accelerate the merger unilaterally. That's the trigger here. I want to keep our leadership in place. It's critical. It would cost way more than the 12 months if they left. And we're really talking about an incremental of 6 from what's in their contract today. So that would be my answer. Happy to defend it to anybody in the community.
Yeah, I appreciate that answer, Kevin. And I'll reiterate it from the city standpoint. Upon assumption, we don't see a need to change staff on the sewer side thing. So, but I can understand. I understand where you're going and what you're doing with it. And I'd also like to just make a note of it that from the city standpoint, we see this as a management decision and not an operational decision.
Okay, any other council members or commissioners want to weigh in on this topic? Hearing none, seeing nobody raise their hand, the chat box not lighting up, we're going to move on. Going down to item C of the information sharing is transfer of service planning under 7.8. The topic under that is attorney fees spent on unification.
So this is from the staff. Both Barb and Mickey have been providing legal fees to each of the entities, and it's been reciprocal. So it's just updating this group that those are being shared between the two entities. Shared as in the dollar amount, not shared as in who's paying.
Thank you on that.
Are you looking for a motion, Dan, for the sewer district to pay the city's attorney's fees? Is that what you're looking for?
No.
Right.
No.
I would be okay with a motion where we swap the fees.
Well, that's the bonus of having 4 attorneys versus 1, Kevin.
You know, when you're in the foxhole getting attacked, you gotta line people up. Brett will tell you that. You gotta, make sure one has your front, one has your 6.
All right, got to have a better foxhole.
Yeah, and I agree. You do have to have multiple folks in the foxhole, and you do multiple lines of regression, so it expands the time frame out that it costs everybody.
Stop.
Okay, with that being said, we're going to move on. Let's go down and do the project review under item 6 of the agenda today, the comprehensive, which first thing up there is the A, comprehensive sewer plan and city comprehensive plan. I'll open that up. I'm sure staff will have something to say on that.
So we are working on the sewer district's comprehensive plan. And the city staff has also been invited and has been participating in those meetings. Jean, Russ, and David have all been attending those. We did provide the drafts of the chapters that are completed already and have received comments back from the city. So overall, it is progressing and doing quite well.
Any questions from any of the more members of the utility committee?
Other than bless our staff that get along.
Excellent. Okay, so let's go on down to the item B under number 6 for these project reviews. The first thing up is going to be Costco.
I'll go ahead and take that. Project is moving forward. There is a bit of delay, it appears, on getting the steel water line to replace the Everett water lines. As you know, with COVID, everything's being delayed as far as building materials. So we just learned that they're struggling to get the pipe. So we'll see a bit of a delay there on 91st, but we'll work through that. The Costco is really close to getting their permit from the Corps of Engineers. So if that goes well, you could see activity out on the job site in the next few weeks, actually. We still have some work to do on the roundabout costs. The latest estimates have continued to go up by the week, it would seem. And so the mayor and I met with DOT, Mike Cotton. He's one of the directors, I believe it's his title. And so we met with him a couple of weeks ago and let him know that the latest estimates were way outside what we could move forward on. And he guaranteed us that they would bring that project back into budget. And so his team is working on that right now. We've talked about other alternatives at that intersection. Interim measures, there's just a lot of discussion about how we can get that intersection improvement done. But Mike has assured us that it will get done in one form or another. And so in the next week or two at most, we should have finalized numbers and an agreement in front of council for them to entertain signing with WashDOT for an intersection improvement there. So it's been challenging, as you know, with this project, and the costs have just continued to go up as that scope has changed and incorporated replacing the culvert, which turned into pretty much a bridge crossing because of the width that needed to go in there. The water line needed to be relocated, the sewer line that goes through there. There's just a lot of elements. So, but the encouraging thing is that Costco's excited. They're ready to move forward, and we are close to closing our bonds. So we will have funding for this project.
One question, Gene. Isn't WashDOT paying, are they paying a majority of the roundabout down there, or are they having the city bear the cost of that?
They're paying none of it. It's all city dollars. We went and lobbied for grants, and we got a grant for that project. I think it was like $2 million, and we assigned that over to WashDOT and their team because they wanted to take that project design on and bring it through construction. So we signed over our grant to WashDOT, and that's what they've been operating off of to date in regards to the design. They're using that grant money that was set aside. So the rest of it is borne by the city.
Okay, yeah, that's surprising me, because I thought that the governor was trying to hold off on a lot of those intersections, and that one was affected. And I thought, well, if you're paying the bill, I could see you having some consternation about paying it. But if they're not paying the bill, I'm not sure why they're having consternation about it. Okay, well, let's move on down to the Civic Center. That is item 2 under the capital projects for the B section, and I'll turn that over because I think the city has all the information on that.
You want to talk about that, Mr. Mayor?
You bet. On the Civic Center. So we continue to meet with Stowe Associates, and Mariah's been on those meetings. It's still a work in progress. We've got down to 3 different courses of action. If you haven't seen them, I think Mariah can get those to you. We'll see. We'll see if it happens. It's going to be a spendy project, and ultimately we'll need to go to the voters for approval. And Mariah, do you have anything to add on that?
Just that there was a community meeting that I was in attendance for in order to, if there were sewer related questions from the community, which there weren't. But yeah, the Stowe group has done a good job of putting together 3 alternatives that vary the amount of shared space and shared areas between the library and the city, and that the district is at this point being we're being treated as a tenant for the project. So we're not, voting members of the group, so to say, as much as participating as possible future tenants in the space.
Has there been discussion on how this is going to be funded?
Yeah, we're mainly going to need to go out to a voter property tax increase kind of a vote for it is what we're gonna need to do.
Okay, so there's no intention or plan to use a sewer district utility tax either directly or indirectly to fund anything related to the Civic Center?
First time I've heard of it, Kevin.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, let's go ahead and move on down to the Hartford industrial area.
I'll take that one. So after Mariah, Jean, Russ, and the mayor and I had met and discussed some potential uses for Hartford industrial, we've tasked GNO as part of our, since we are going through a comprehensive plan amendment, we've tasked GNO to help us find kind of the least cost solution to serving as much of the Hartford area as possible and provide enough capacity for what is envisioned down there. We haven't quite made it to the capital improvement plan yet, but since we have Jean and Russ participating in our comprehensive plan, they'll be able to provide real-time updates when we do get to that portion.
Any questions by any of the utility members?
No, my only comment would be that I'm pleased to hear that anything that relates to capital is being discussed jointly in the context of the comprehensive plan, which is where it should be rationalized and priorities made and trade-offs made within what funds are available to be able to deploy against it. That's the right place to have it happen.
Yeah, and just to follow up with that, Jonathan, our legislative delegation, Representative Delbany, as well as Senator Murray, have asked for earmarked sort of projects for the city, and that Hartford one is our number one to be able to get that developed out.
Why wouldn't we just go down the list of whatever's the top priority on the capital plan? And I don't just mean sewer district, I mean joint city district, whatever, the biggest capital options that we have. If the capital plan represents the prioritized list of capital projects, why wouldn't it be that we just, there's your ready-made list instead of coming, I'm missing something, right? Why would we come around to Hartford if there's other things that are slotted in front of it relative to capital needs?
There were some criteria as far as projects that would provide economic development, jobs, that sort of thing, and that's why we came around with the Hartford Industrial Project.
Okay. And the other ones on the capital list don't meet the criteria?
I'm not saying they don't, but I see the Hartford one as being the most immediate.
Okay.
So just one other question in regards to Hartford Industrial. Is that going to include when the annexation goes over across this Machias? Are you going to call that still part of the Hartford Industrial Complex area? And is that planning for, is there any significant changes? Because I know the topography is a little lower on the other side of Hartford. And is that something we have to plan for to try to get sewer? I don't know if you guys have even identified anything in that. I'm probably a little premature in asking, but I just didn't know if it included that.
Yeah, so we've already annexed that side of Machias. That's already in the city. And then Jonathan and Dean, I think I'd have to refer to you if whether or not you're including that in your planning.
Yeah, Russ provided comment that that our previous base maps that showed the boundaries of the two entities was we had a discrepancy, so that part was added to the city boundaries. So the district will take that area into consideration for future service, and most likely the best way to service that area will be through any improvements that we do through the Hartford industrial area.
Perfect, thank you. Any other comments, questions by any of the utility members? Hearing, seeing nobody make a motion that they want to do something like that or wave me down. Let's move on down to the decant facility.
All right. So today I wasn't able to make it, but Aaron Halverson and the city team put on a training for, I guess, for the operation of the decant facility. There's a lot of there's going to be a lot of traffic through there, and understanding how the system operates is pretty critical at this juncture. The project's substantially complete, and we're hoping to start using it as soon as possible. This has been a great project for cooperation, and I'm glad the way it turned out.
That's awesome.
John,
That is awesome.
I'm sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
Oh, I just said, no, that's awesome project, awesome example of what we can do together. Very complimentary of the city taking leadership on the operations side of it. Appreciate that. So yeah, well done, well played, well, all the way around.
I just want to say, I think this is a great way for the city and Lake Stevens to share costs and save money for the ratepayers.
Yeah, it's a good project. I went down there to check it out to see a little bit of the training, and met Brian with collections, good guy. We actually did our first little dump of some street sweeper, so it's kind of exciting. And I'll tell you what was actually pretty cool about it and exciting was our employees realizing that they've got a state-of-the-art facility that they can actually not only dispose of things, but actually maintenance and take care of their vehicles and their equipment properly. And that's the good end result.
No, it's great to see a project like that come together. So hats off to everybody that worked on it. Good job. Let's go ahead and move on down to 7 under the agenda, which is development review. Under 4.20, review of DEA's co-location of one-stop shop. I'll open that up.
All right. So I'll take the co-location or one-stop shop discussion. I believe it was last month, Gene, Russ, and Mariah and myself had had a meeting to discuss the potential of perhaps moving some of our permitting processes through the city, as far as all permits being collected by the city, or applications for the permits, and all fees collected by the city, similar to the interlocal agreement they've got with the fire district. So we all agreed that there is some potential there. But as I guess an example of what we've done so far, we have modified our infill side sewer permit methodology to include the city, which hadn't been done before, and we recently ran into problems where we issued a permit and the homeowner, rather than going to the city to see if there was additional permits needed to do that work, had started just digging and blew through a wetland. So we modified our process to include the city. And if you don't mind me sharing my screen, I'll show you we created a flow chart to show what that process looks like. Let's see. Let's see if it'll work. Sometimes crashes my computer, so I apologize in advance. Might be too much. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so this is an example, a flow chart of what that new modified side sewer permit process looks like. As you can see, it has increased the turnaround period for those permits, but it ensures that all parties that need to see that work prior to the work being done get to see it. So it starts right now with the district accepting an application. And I guess as a side note, infill side sewer permits, we get about a dozen to maybe 2 dozen a year. So it's not a high volume permit process, but it potentially has one of the bigger ramifications if not done right. So we chose this one to start off with, and there's still room for improvement. But so the district receives an application. We'll review the application for completeness. If the application is complete, we'll send it off to the city, and there's a section on the permit itself for city comments and any additional permits that'll be required, and has all the city contact information, so the applicant knows who to contact and stuff like that. And then the city reviews. The city's review can take 7 to 10 days. Workload is heavy for the planning staff right there, or down at the city. So those reviews take 7 to 10 days. In that 7 to 10 days, the city staff looks for any critical areas or any wetlands that are categorized or identified in the city's catalog. And then there's this process for if there's no critical areas, then the city lets us know that there's no additional permits or requirements, and then the district approves. If there are critical areas, the city informs us of which permits and gives us information to give to the applicant on who to contact with the city and what to prepare with before they contact the city. And the district will not approve any of our infill side sewer permits until the applicant has received all city required permits. So we wait for the city planning staff or the permit specialist to let us know that the applicant has accomplished all of the city's comments before we issue the permit. So taking a step similar to this, or a process flow chart similar to this, the district and city intend to move forward with perhaps some of our other permit processes. There's a lot that will go into that, so it might not be a overnight process change, and we've got to change some of our policies, but it is still in the forefront of to-do list, and I'm hoping that this will be a better, less cumbersome way to be able to handle development in the future.
Jonathan, who handles the inspections?
That is the district staff for side sewer.
So it's the city is just kind of doing a cursory review, make sure things from an environmental standpoint are in place, and then refers everything back to the district again.
Yeah, and we had discussed a few options with Gene and Russ about the potential for city approval on some of our other permits, but that'll be a policy discussion with the commissioners before we move forward with that part. But I guess the way we've planned this process, hopefully we can simplify this even further to maybe a couple of lines on the in the flow chart, but using a process similar to this to identify areas where using the city's infrastructure as far as permit tracks to be able to track all of our permits and city permits. I think that's a pretty good idea.
Okay, great to hear.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. It's always great to see when these things are working out like we kind of envision them too. Any other comments, questions, concerns by any of the other utility members?
One question I'd have is, we've brought up a couple times on co-location of staff. There's nothing like having proximity to come closer together. And as we look at moving into the upper portions of the Vernon Business Center, we're still, it's an open question of how much space there really would be there. But is that something we want to, have staff look at and say, would it make sense to co-locate part of the joint teams there, or is that something, is there a reason why we wouldn't want to at least poke our nose and look at what that may or may not look like?
I'll chime in. I'm not afraid.
I'm not sure. Go ahead, Gene. If you got it, go.
I'm in favor of looking at it for sure. The Public Works group should be moving down to the new facility in July. And we did a little discussion this morning and some mapping, if you will, of who was going to move where in City Hall. And we're maxed out in space. And so any cooperation works for me. So I guess the short answer from my perspective is absolutely any cooperation is great in my perspective, because we're doing the same stuff. If I could digress real quickly, Jonathan, maybe you talked with Ty already, but that little Gantt chart that you just showed, if you haven't already, if you can get with him and make sure there's a reporting structure for accidents, incidents, anything like that that might happen at the decant facility. I don't want people to start doing the blame shame game thing. We don't need any of that. And as we know, accidents will happen, unfortunately, but they need to know when to report them, how to report them, and make sure that you and Ty are on the same page all the time on that. Let's try and get ahead of that. If you haven't already, it'd be great.
Yeah. And Aaron had he had submitted a draft maintenance and operation manual that I'm still currently reviewing, but there was some language there for redress if an accident happened or damage happened to the facility. So I'm hoping that I can get comments back to Aaron and Ty, hopefully by the end of this week or early next week.
Excellent, thank you.
Anything else by anyone? Okay, let's move on down then to, we have the next meetings, of course, we do them quarterly, would be in July and October. Obviously, if there's things before the Utility Committee, we are always open to want to meet and discuss those things and come up with opportunities rather than wait as long as possible. I prefer to try to do it sooner than later. So I don't know if there's any other comments anybody want us to add to that?
I'd just say, if there's anything that's top, since we're all focused on this right now, is there anything top of mind that, feels, right for that July timeframe that you'd like to see on the agenda, or that October? I mean, October is ripe for how's the year going to end? What do budgets look like? I think that would be good to have Mickey be part of that. I don't know if it's, it'd be beneficial to have take a look at the city stuff or not, but certainly the district share that and walk through that at that time would be, I think, makes sense. And the capital planning process, I don't know if we think the time frame for that, maybe a formal readout on the 27th meeting on the capital, or at least where we're at, even if we aren't 100% complete, kind of where we're at and what the prioritization looks like, what the dollars look like, what some of the trade-offs have been discussed. I think that would be, great to have there. And then anything else, from city partners' perspective that would be good, joint, maybe a review of, that October, maybe, how's the decant operations going? What's worked well? What maybe, didn't work well? What can we change? Just kind of a review there might make sense. And
I do have one suggestion, if the commissioners don't mind, or council wouldn't mind, is we should have 60% plans for the lift station 2C upgrade and the business loop sewer line replacement. Part of that project, we believe, would trigger some sidewalk improvements there, specifically ADA ramps. So I would like to get that before the Utility Committee QA/QC. We'll do some staff internal QA/QC with Grace and Jean and Eric as well. But I think just so it'll be easier to see the size and scope of that project. And we should have 30% plans for the lift station 2C and 1C upgrade and update at that same time. So that's something I can share with the utility committee at that time.
Jonathan, could you explain where those two projects are at? One's on Mitchell Road, I believe, but the 1C, where that's.
Yeah, that one's 1C. 2C is the one on 20th Street, right across from the apartment complex, Grade Road and 20th Street Northeast, essentially, by the Verizon building. And the idea that we had talked about in utility committee probably 5 or 6 years ago, when the city was starting to work on the downtown sub-area plan, is to turn 2C into a regional lift station, so increase the capacity of 2C to be able to handle all of the flow from downtown, essentially taking some of the pressure off of 1C, and to be able to provide build out capacity for the downtown sub area. So it's a crucial project to be able to provide the capacity needed to support the downtown sub area plan.
How big a project would that be dollar-wise?
I think our comp plan has it slated at about 5.6 million.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Koshi, I would also like to bring forward a presentation to the group on Millspur. Those plans are pretty well finalized. I know Jonathan has been a great partner on helping with that, the sewer side of things on that project. But as you've been hearing over the last couple of weeks, a lot is going on in that area. The library's packed up. The Grimm House, we're going to be signing the contract here this week to have that moved. And we're hopeful that we'll get a grant for that project. So you'll see that particular project go out to bid the next few weeks. The trees came down last week, so there's just a lot happening, and I think with everybody's time to get a briefing on that as well.
No, I mean, it's great to see a lot of these things coming forward. So we may be meeting sooner than later, which I have no issue with. So, you know, we'll work it between the staffs. Please, if, you know, Gene, if you see something in this on the utility side that you for the city that says, hey, let's get together sooner than later, let's do that. We'll do the same thing with going through Mariah, so we can stay on top of this, because as we all know, it's only going to get busier, and things are just going to start stacking up if we don't start addressing them sooner than later. So definitely, I have no issue if we need to, you know, do this on a monthly like we've done before. That's something I think we need to work on. So any other comments from any of the members? Hearing none, seeing nobody, we are at the end of our fine meeting. It is the adjournment process. We actually did pretty well. We're only 13 minutes over, but that's better than our usual. Sometimes we don't even make it, or we go way past that. So with that being said, I appreciate everybody's time in that. If someone wants to make a motion to adjourn, we can definitely do that.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved second, third, and everything else. All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.